Oh, I bet.
During the day.
Makes sense, actually, when you think about it.
I mean, I was a daughter, I had like one little bit of breakfast. They went like, then we would, like trying to get this meeting.
We're still at 66.
So we are coming back into public session. We started at 6 p.m. We had some private session issues to address. So I'll ask Michael, could you lead us in the flag salute?
Sure. I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Announcements. Kent, do you have any announcements?
Yes, I do. I have two, actually. 7 students from Edison and Roosevelt Intermediate Schools were accepted to perform with the 2018 Central Jersey Music Educators Association Region 2 Intermediate Band and Orchestra. These are highly competitive ensembles with only 10 to 15% of student musicians who audition are accepted. Performing as part of the CJMEA Region 2 Orchestra are Edison 7th graders Kevin Chen, viola, Steve Wang, violin, and Claire Yu, cello, along with Roosevelt 7th grader Julian Hamilton, viola, and 8th grader Meredith Shepard, viola. Edison 8th graders Connor Daly, trombone, and Amy Xiao, piccolo, flute, and violin, who perform with the CJMEA Region 2 Wind Ensemble. Congratulations to our talented intermediate student musicians and to Roosevelt Orchestra Director Bryce Freeman, Edison Band Director John Scorzaro, and Edison Orchestra Director Jennifer Perkel. The second announcement, 9 students from Westfield High School performed as part of the 2018 Central Jersey Music Educators Association Region 2 Honors Chorus on January 28th at Monroe Township High School. The WHS students auditioned and were chosen from a competitive group of student vocalists. Senior Abby Rothenberg received a commemorative pin recognizing her 4 years in Region Chorus. Congratulations to the following students: Russell Cohen, Charlotte Gary, Samantha Horvath, Zaria Katz, Joseph Maldonado, Matthew Meissner, Vincent Mora, Abby Rothenberg, Matthew Cerati. We applaud their accomplishments and those of their vocal instructors, John Brzezowski and Maureen Francis. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's good.
Amy.
A lot of tricky. I also have 2 announcements. The first one is for the intermediate schools. The Student Government Association at Edison Intermediate School donated $1,500 to Children's Specialized Hospital. Students sold paper snowflakes over a 2-week period in December at $1 apiece. The money raised will be divided among the many different programs offered by the hospital's mountainside location. The snowflakes continue to adorn Edison's front lobby. Special thanks to the members of the SGA and to their advisors, Andrew Cusumano and Caitlin D'Angelo. And the second one is a high school athletics announcement. Congratulations to girls varsity soccer player Grace Elliott, who represented Westfield High School on Sunday, February 4th at the National Girls and Women in Sports Day, hosted by the New Jersey State Interscholastic Athletic Association, also known as NJSIAA, and Seton Hall University. Grace will continue to play soccer at the University of Scranton next fall.
Great, thank you. Lynn.
I have an additional high school athletic announcement. Congratulations to Kenneth Miller, Assistant Varsity Football Coach at Westfield High School, for being named Assistant Coach of the Year for the North 2 region by the New Jersey Football Coaches Association. Coach Miller, who is also a physical education teacher at McKinley School, will be recognized on March 18th at the NJSIAA luncheon in Edison, and he happens to be my 3 sons' favorite teacher of all time.
That's great. Michael.
I have nothing this evening.
Charles.
I have a Westfield High School athletics announcement also. Congratulations to Westfield High School varsity girls basketball player Molly Ryan, who was selected by the New Jersey Scholastic Coaches Association to play in the annual Senior New Jersey High School All-Star Basketball Classic Games on March 17th. Molly will continue to play basketball at Tufts University next fall.
Thank you. Peggy.
I have very good news for students and only sort of good news for our staff. Westfield Public Schools will be closed for students on Thursday, February 15th and Friday, February 16th. During this time, our staff will attend 2 days of on-site professional development, but schools will also be closed to both students and staff for President's Day on Monday, February 19th.
Thank you. Our next Board of Education meeting will be held on February 27th at 7:30 PM at 302 Elm Street in this room. And the complete agenda will be available on our website the preceding Friday, February 23rd. Dr. Dolan, do you have any announcements?
I do not.
So we are going to move on to agenda items. At this point, I would recognize anyone from the public for agenda items only. Seeing no one come to the podium, I'd ask the board to approve the minutes of our board meeting held on January 23rd, 2018, and the private minutes of the same date. Can I have a second? Amy, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any abstentions?
Me.
Charles and Michael are abstaining. Personnel, Peggy.
I'd like the board to consider personnel items number 1 to 14. Do I have a second?
Second.
Dr. Dolan, would you like to talk about our retirements?
Yes, actually, tonight I'm announcing with regret the retirement of 5 staff members who have served the students of Westfield for a total of 121 years. Susan Debbie has been a paraprofessional at Washington and McKinley schools for the last 23 years. She has worked as a student assigned aide and as support staff in special education classes. She's been a wonderful resource for her students, encouraging them and holding them to a standard of doing their best. She has made a difference in many students' school experiences. However, Susan says that it is the students who have made a difference in her life. We also have Jerry Rizzo. She's another paraprofessional at McKinley. She has also enjoyed being a member of the staff at Jefferson and Tamaqua schools over the course of her 30 years in the district. She says that her years of service have flown by, and she has been grateful to work in classrooms where students have shown so much growth. She is proud of her students' accomplishments and said that their smiles, when they achieve a goal no matter how large or small, is what has made her work so rewarding. For the last 12 years, Avril DePalma has been a valued secretary in the district. She began in the Human Resources Department coordinating ASAP, which places substitutes in the schools, and competently managed the hiring process for substitute secretaries, paraprofessionals, and custodians. For the last 7 years, Avril has been the head secretary at Lincoln, often the first person whom new parents and students meet. Avril makes everyone feel welcome through her warmth and gracious assistance. We have Kathy Dominic. Kathy Dominic is a registered public purchasing specialist who has worked in the business office as the district's purchasing agent for the last 18 years. Kathy has also been in the accounts payable secretary and the secretary at the high school during her 27 years in Westfield. She is a knowledgeable resource who is ready to help staff with aspects of purchasing, which is a significant responsibility in a district of our size. She has a ready laugh, which the business office staff will greatly miss. And our 5th retiree, Julie Walsh. Julie Walsh is one of Westfield High School media specialists, and she's part of the fabric of the high school. Throughout her 27 years, she has helped establish the library as a highly functional learning space for students and teachers. Her efforts have kept the library relevant and current with today's ever-changing technology and with ever-growing database collections. In addition, Julie's passion has been to maintain the high school archives. She has created a highly organized space for future generations of Blue Devils to access information and memorabilia from across the decades. We certainly wish all of these staff members well as they move on to the next adventure in their lives.
Thank you.
Thank you. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
No.
Dana?
Lynn Benner,
Aye.
Mike Beelan,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Peggy Oster,
Yes.
Charles Ostroff,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
Anything else, personnel?
That's it.
Facilities, that's me. We don't have any items to vote on this evening, but we had a facilities committee meeting on Friday. We got some updates from Dana, Mike Morris, and George Duthie about the work that's being done in the district. So the auditoriums are really close, really close. So the middle school auditoriums, Edison has its certificate of occupancy. A temporary certificate has been issued for Roosevelt. There's a little bit more of the lighting work that needs to be done once the wood panels are installed. But they're gonna look beautiful, and I look forward to a grand opening of both. Kaler is set to go out to bid, next month, March?
Thursday.
Thursday.
Yeah.
And we're going to
We'll open
hopefully
bids
begin
in
work,
March.
right, we'll vote in March, and then we'll begin work in May,
Right.
hopefully 7th, and to be completed by August 31st. It's not
Yeah.
lots of things.
Hope for a
And
dry
then-
summer.
Yeah, and then just updated the notes with some other district projects that are going on, an update on the solar. Does anybody have any questions about, so the solar, there's some tweaks to the system that are gonna be made, but under the contract that we have with the user, we are being reimbursed for the time that it's not actually in place. And I think everything else, Dana, anything else facilities-wise to report on?
No, with Science Lab, we're also going out to bid on they're both gonna be advertised Thursday. We'll be opening those, in March, and then the other big project, we have a lot of small projects going on. The other big project this summer will be boiler replacement at the high school. And we haven't advertised that yet, but it's coming soon.
Okay. Which was sidelined before because the bids we received were too high,
Right.
so we're hopeful to
We-
be able
we
to
redid
do
the
a
whole
steam
project.
boiler now
Right.
that'll be able to fit it in the budget. I don't know when the next facilities committee meeting is, but it'll be in the blue notes. Long-range planning, Amy?
No report.
Okay. Policies, in Brendan's absence, I'm gonna ask Dr. Dolan to sort of talk through the policies that the committee that are on the agenda tonight.
Should you wanna?
Yeah, so I would ask the board to approve for first reading, policies 5600, 5610, and 5620. Can I have a second, please?
Second.
Kent, thank you. Dr. Dolan.
So, all of these are revisions of existing policies, 5600, which is pupil discipline. Basically, what it reflects are any changes that occurred in state code. Okay, it does not change our procedure at all, it just changes, what the state code is, the current state code. Policy 5610 regards suspension. It also updates to reflect changes in state statutes and code. For example, some of the policies have been moved to other policies that are very specific to specific types of suspensions. But other than that, again, our policies for suspension, our rules for suspensions remain the same. And the third one is expulsion, and this, again, only reflects updates in state code and state statutes.
So a number of our policies are mandated policies, policies that are mandated by the state and they're controlled by law. So although we review all of our policies in a 5-year cycle, whenever there is a change in the law, we need to amend our policies to reflect that. But it's good because it gives us a chance to review and make sure that everything is still as we want it to be. So, any other questions, first reading? Dana?
Lynn Benner,
Yes.
Michael Beelin,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Peggy Oster,
Yes.
Charles Ostroff,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
And I would ask the board to consider policy item number 2, to approve for second reading the following policies listed there. Can I have a second? Kent, thank you. Does anybody have any questions? This is the second time we're seeing these. Dana?
Lynn Benner,
Yes.
Michael Beelin,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Peggy Oster,
Yes.
Charles Ostroff,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
And finally, I'd ask the board to affirm the superintendent's decision on HIB incident 18L01 for the reasons set forth therein. Can I have a second, please?
Yeah.
Amy, thank you. Dana?
Lynn Benner,
Yes.
Michael Beelin,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Peggy Oster,
Yes.
Charles Ostroff,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
Nothing further on policies, curriculum, instruction, and program. Michael?
Yes, ask the board to approve. We have 3 field trips, 2 regular field trips, and overnight field trip as outlined. Do I have a second?
Yes.
Kent?
Yeah.
Anybody have any questions?
Any questions?
No.
Lynn
Dana?
Benner,
Yes.
Michael Beelin,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Peggy Oster,
Yes.
Charles Ostroff,
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
And our next meeting is scheduled for Friday, the 23rd of February.
I think
Oh, did we cancel that one?
Are we on hiatus in February, or was that for January? Okay, so this is the really great meeting
This
that
is
you
the epic
promised us
meeting.
all.
Right, this is the
Epic
one that's gonna combine
Right.
everything together.
All right, great. Finance, Charles.
Okay, I would like the board to consider for approval items 1 through 12 as listed. Can I get a second?
Sure.
Okay, before we vote, I'd actually like to point out items. Accepting a gift of $3,895 from the Westfield High School Band Parent Association to pay for transportation for Westfield High School Color Guard field trip. Also accept a gift of $10,310 from an anonymous donor to Washington School to purchase 33 Chromebooks and a charging card. Accept a gift of $933.95 from the Jefferson School PTO to Mrs. Campasano's third grade class for a garden growing system. And accept a gift from the Westfield Booster Association for renovations to the Edison Intermediate School locker room at an estimated cost of $40,000. Any questions on anything that's listed within?
No.
Did you get a second? Do we have a second?
Yeah, we do.
Okay.
Lynn Benner,
Yes.
Michael Beelan,
Yes.
Kent Diamond,
Yes.
Gretchen Oleg,
Yes.
Peggy Oster,
Yes.
Charles Ostroff.
Yes.
Amy Root.
Yes.
The finance committee meeting for
March
this
2nd.
week has been moved to March 2nd?
March 2nd.
Okay. For this month. Technology, Peggy?
I don't really have any report, but we are continuing to get feedback on the website and the setup for the templates. And I want to shout out again to Brian Ocker and his team. I heard he did an amazing job at Expo. People were asking him questions and advice, and that means that we have the best here, and it's always good for us. So thank you, Brian, and your team.
I'd ask the board to note the notes for the record. Do we have any unfinished business tonight? Any new business? Liaison reports? I have a brief report. I attended the Recreation Commission meeting last night, where there was discussion primarily about, there's new bathrooms that are a small building that's gonna be built with bathrooms at Memorial for the use by the softball fields and baseball fields too, I guess. And then also, there was more talk about Tamaqua, the proposed turfing of space in Tamaqua and what that might look like in the timeline. I think that everything is still very much in the planning stages, but that's a continuing conversation. So nothing else to report from that. Anybody else have anything? No. At this point, I would recognize the public for questions and/or comments. If you could come to the podium and just state your name and address. Yes, please.
Didn't realize I'd get a podium. This is exciting. I am Frady Reese, 418 Edgar Road. I am the parent of a 12th grade student here in the district, a beautiful, smart, talented, hardworking girl who's actually in the back now doing her homework during this meeting. That's how hardworking she is. And she also happens to struggle with a serious disability. And I am here because, unfortunately, the Special Services Department at Westfield School District has, for the last 3 years, made my life and my daughter's life a living hell. Ever since she became sick a few years ago and clearly needed special services, even when she was in pediatric ICU fighting for her life, the Special Services Department fought me every second of the way, refusing to acknowledge her obvious special needs. Even when the doctor that they hired to examine my daughter clearly stated that she could not function in a regular class, they refused to provide her with the free, appropriate public education to which she is entitled, and they insisted that I hire an attorney before they would even speak with me or get her the help that she needed. We finally worked that out, and now, 3 years later, their horrific treatment of my daughter continues. And their most recent appalling act is my daughter recently got a service dog to help her with her disability, and they have gone out of their way to do everything they can in violation of federal and state law and human decency to bar my daughter from going to school with her service dog. So my daughter first went to school with her service dog. It's a fairly new service dog, and the first time she brought the dog to school was on January 2nd, right after New Year's, and that was her first day back in school after her most recent hospitalization. Within hours that she was there, I started getting emails and calls from the district. And in, again, flagrant violation of federal and state law, they first said, your service dog cannot go to school. They tried to ban it completely, and they said she cannot go back to school, she cannot go on the bus or go to school until you submit verification that this dog is a service dog. Never mind, by the way, that this service dog is in her IEP for this entire school year, because I discussed this at the IEP meeting and let them know that she was getting a service dog. Never mind that it was in the IEP. Never mind that the Americans with Disabilities Act specifically prohibits a public accommodation from requesting or asking for any kind of verification that a service dog is a service dog. And I replied in writing. I have this in writing in emails. I replied and I said to the members, the officials at the Special Services Department, you are not allowed to ask for verification that a service dog is a service dog. And the response is, well, that's the district policy, nothing we can do. This went back and forth for hours. I finally said, let me see this district policy you're describing that violates federal law. And they sent me the district policy, and I'm happy to report that it did not in there say that I had to prove that the dog is a service dog. So I'm glad to say at least the district's policy doesn't openly violate federal law. And it does ask for two basic forms of documentation, verifying that the dog has his license and that he's in good health, and I provided those within hours to the district. And still, they were giving me a really hard time, insisted that I have to, again, hire an attorney. You have to hire an attorney if you want your service dog in school. Hired an attorney who called and said, seriously, you're not going to allow a service dog? And they finally relented. And I thought, okay, we got this now. Next, they sent me a waiver they wanted me to sign, promising that during the entire school day, this dog would not relieve himself or eat or drink. Not only is that inhumane, Logan, the service dog, is a 9-month-old puppy, but that's also flagrant violation of federal and state law. You have to make public accommodation, has to make accommodations for a service dog. And I refused to sign the waiver, and my lawyer called and said, of course, you can't ask her to sign this. And I thought we were all taken care of. I was wrong. The following morning, my daughter got on the school bus with this service dog for the second time, and the bus driver said to her, you are not allowed on this bus with your service dog. And so she got off the bus and she came back inside and she said, I'm not allowed on the bus. And I said, of course you are. And we went back outside. I got back on the bus with her and I said to the driver, there's a mistake. I worked this out with the district yesterday. My lawyer called. I submitted all documentation. We're good to go. Nothing doing, refused to drive my daughter. And I said, well, I am not getting off the bus with my daughter and her service dog. She has every right to go to school. Even though she has a disability, you're not allowed to deny her. After about a half-hour showdown, the bus driver or the bus company called the police. And the police came to my house and they removed my daughter and her service dog from the school bus that morning. The school district, special services, refused to intervene, refused to do anything. For a full week afterward, the bus company refused to drive my daughter. And every time I begged for help from special services, their response to me was, well, you know, the Union County Educational Services Commission provides transportation. There's nothing we can do. That's not a very believable story. Obviously, there's something they could have done. It took a full week to convince them to drive my daughter and her service dog to school. There are three things that I'm here tonight to ask from you. The first is, my daughter is owed an apology. I'd like special services at Westfield School District to apologize to my daughter for treating her so appallingly. And I want them to confirm to her that she is worthy of dignity and respect, even though she has a disability and even though she has a service dog, that she is worthy of respect and dignity as any other student in the Westfield School District. 2, the district needs a more clear policy that staffers here at the district can follow and understand as it relates to service dogs and students with disabilities. I am not the only parent in the district that has a child with a service dog. And from what I understand, there have been a lot of problems with the other child in the district that has a service dog. So this is something that needs to be addressed. And it would be great also if special services was made aware that they are here to serve the students of Westfield, particularly those with disabilities, not to fight us. They cannot require us to hire an attorney every time our children need special services. And 3, because of the way special services has treated me and my daughter, I've been forced to hire an attorney twice now, and I have paid so far $9,000 in legal fees to get my daughter the free, appropriate public education to which she was entitled. Free. Free. It wasn't supposed to cost me $9,000. And so I am asking you here tonight, I'd like to submit invoices for the legal services that I've been forced to obtain, and I'd like reimbursement for that $9,000. Thank you.
Do you want to respond, or shall I? So, first of all, where's your daughter? I don't think that there's anyone in this district who won't be willing to look you in the eye and tell you that you are absolutely entitled to the same education that every other student in this district gets. And if you felt otherwise, then I apologize for that. But that being said, I think that the sequence of events that happened with respect, and I can only really speak specifically to the incidents that happened with the dog, because that's what I'm familiar with. So our policy is pretty clear. We require those 2 forms of documentation. And my understanding is that it wasn't provided the very first day that she showed up with the dog on the bus. And so I'm happy to give you more time, and if you want to speak more, I'm going to have to ask you to go to the podium because we're being recorded, and so I want you to have that time. But please give me a minute as well. So then, the bus in question services children from multiple districts, including districts that aren't just Westfield. And so those parents and those children have to be notified. So in the course, even after you provided the documentation, we were not able to notify all of those parents. So you're right, the second day we weren't ready to go either, right? And so, you know, I understand a second bus had to come. I'm sure that was disturbing for you. I'm sure it was really upsetting for your daughter that the second bus had to come, take all the other students, and that the police had to get involved. But the circumstances under which we weren't able to allow the dog on the bus were legitimate and valid. And we have an obligation to all the students, as does the bus company that ride that bus. And then I think there was a snow day.
There was a snow day that week, yes.
And then the very next possible day, we were good to go. And so I think the characterization that we somehow tried to prevent her from using her service dog is not fair and not accurate.
Not only did I submit the paperwork on the first day that it was requested, after sifting through and saying what they were allowed to ask and what they were not allowed to ask, which I shouldn't have had to be the one to educate them on, not only did I submit it within hours, but that dog was in her IEP since last May. Why did they not request that last May? Further, the Americans with Disabilities Act specifically says that a bus company or any public accommodation is not allowed to deny access to a service dog based on an allergy. If somebody else has an allergy, the public accommodation has to make accommodations for that. The bus company's position was not only did they not allow her access because they were afraid because somebody on the bus had an allergy. They didn't know that. They denied her access for a full week while they went to all the other parents to determine whether anyone actually had an allergy, and also they added a phobia. They wanted to make sure nobody on the bus had a dog phobia. That is not legitimate. That is not allowed. And if that's what's in the current district policy, that needs to be updated because that is illegal.
Well, I don't believe that that's what's in our policy, but I don't understand how it's not reasonable to allow the bus an opportunity to remove children who may either be allergic or afraid of animals from the bus.
They didn't remove children who were allergic or afraid. In fact, nobody on the bus was allergic or afraid. They removed my daughter with her service dog.
All right, well, we can argue semantics, but my sense from what I understand is that the district acted appropriately with respect to this particular situation. We asked that the policy be adhered to, and we respected the other children who were on that bus. And within as short of a period of time as those obligations had been met, she was allowed on the bus with the dog.
The other children on the bus were extremely upset about what was happening to my daughter, and all of them expressed we're fine with her on the bus. For the full half hour of the showdown, Logan was on the bus with all the other children. He didn't attack any of them. He didn't eat anyone. Everything was fine. And in fact, that's some.
Alleging that he would.
They were alleging that he was possibly a danger to the other children. And even when the other bus showed up and took all the other children, she was alone on the bus. Even then, they wouldn't transport her to school when there was not a single other child on the bus. Why? There was no chance of allergy. There was no chance of anything. Why would they not drive her when she was the only student on the bus? But what you're saying is that not only are you not apologizing, but your position is that what was done was completely appropriate, that a child with a disability who has a service dog should be removed. The police should be called and remove that child from the bus. That's the district's policy. That's okay if the paperwork isn't submitted on time, which it was, and which, if there was any question, last May that could have been figured out. Okay? This happened on January 3rd. May of 2017, we wrote that IEP.
So when the dog was added to the IEP, did you actually have a service dog?
I did
in place
not.
At that time?
I did not. I notified the district that she was getting a dog, made sure that that was okay, that she took the dog with her to her out-of-district placement. The school knew, the district knew, everyone knew. If there was paperwork that had to be provided, why didn't anybody tell me? The school knew that this dog was going to be going to school. This was not a surprise to anybody.
There wasn't a dog until there was a dog.
Right, and then we had the dog from, when did we get the dog? In June. And we were dealing with the school. Everybody knew that this dog was about to start going to school. Why didn't anybody say, you have to submit all this paperwork? And which I did within
You didn't know about
hours.
the dog until the dog showed up to get on the bus.
Okay.
That was my understanding.
And then what? And then what? And then you said we
asked
need
for the
this.
appropriate documentation.
The appropriate documentation had already been submitted the day before. The first day Logan went to school,
That's not
the
accurate.
first,
That's not accurate.
you're telling me it's not, I was there and you weren't. I'm telling you, the first day he went to school, there was no problem on the bus. And then later I got the call from the district and they said, you need to submit X, Y, Z. And I submitted X and Y.
So-
And then the next day they blocked him from going on the bus.
So I'm rather confident that going back and forth on this date and that date, I mean, something like that could be proved with emails and the rest, it's not going to be helpful tonight. So let me just say a few things. Is it important, and do we, the Westfield Board of Education does comply with federal and state regulations to address students in need of a service animal, as well as addressing the legal rights of all students? We do that. We do have a policy. We do look to update according to various directives. The rules for schools are somewhat different than for other entities, by the way. And historically, we have supported the use of service animals. And what is helpful, and what would be helpful perhaps for other families who might be in a similar circumstance, is it is helpful to work with those families leading up to when the service animal is going to be employed, because then you can discuss everything that is required, and everything can be in place, because no one wants the situation that happened. Absolutely not. You know, nobody wants that. We don't want that for your daughter or for any other child. But what helps is if the school, the district, the bus company, the other school has information of that a week before, 2 weeks before.
Or in
but
this
not-
case, several months before.
But several months before, when there wasn't a dog.
Right,
So
and then leading up to
hypothetically,
it.
You couldn't get a hypothetical license, truly. So, I mean, once there was a dog and
Mm-hmm.
you needed to get a license and you needed to get the information from the veterinarian,
Mm-hmm.
it would have been helpful to know that before the dog was literally at the bus stop. And then did it happen like this? You know, it didn't happen like this. It kind of happened like this. And your daughter and the dog have been being transported to school for a month. A month. I'm
Oh,
sorry
okay.
it wasn't perfect in the beginning, but you can't arrive with an animal at a bus stop that's picking up other children. You wouldn't arrive with a child who's not on the bus list, and you wouldn't arrive with an animal who's not on the bus list. We need some time just to verify that, and then when it can be verified, of course, that's fine. It's fine, but you can't just arrive and expect it's going to happen.
And why didn't they say that when they wrote up the IEP? 2 months before this dog goes to school, we need this and that paperwork. And when we were leading up to the actual dog attending school, we had a date set, and unfortunately we had to push it off because on that date my daughter ended up back in the hospital. Why didn't anybody say, well, when this dog shows up, we're going to give you a really hard time because you didn't submit all the paperwork you had to submit? Don't make it sound as if I showed up at the bus stop with the dog. That is an inaccurate description of what happened. And you're going to sit here and argue with me about when things happened, when things didn't. I was there and you weren't. I'm telling you how it happened.
No,
And if
I
your
agree that we
position is that
shouldn't
that was
argue about
perfectly
it,
okay, that's really good to know. I want to remind everyone on the board, you were all elected by the people of Westfield. We elected you to this position. And our tax dollars pay your salary. And this is not okay. And I hope if there are others here who agree with me that you'll get up and say so.
Seeing no one else come to the podium, I think we're adjourned for the evening. I'd like. I I just need you to state your name and address. Thank you.
I have a bit of a cold, so.
My name is Margaret Vasquez. I'm at 527 Carlton Road. I don't know all the specifics that have happened, but I just know that something here was done incorrectly. I don't know if it was the exact policy of the board or if there were specific laws broken. I just know that if that were my daughter, I would be very upset. And I don't think that Frady and her daughter are asking for too much by the 3 items that she mentioned. An apology, which, there was some apology here, but, I think the board itself should apologize. 2, I guess the other item that she was asking for was just to relook at the district policy. I have not read it, so honestly, I can't speak to that. But we should look at it and just make sure that it's current. And 3rd, if she was being asked to get an attorney just in order to defend her position, I think that also she should be reimbursed for. Those are my positions.
Understood, and I don't disagree with you. I think something went wrong, and to be honest with you, my perspective is that something went wrong on both sides. And so I've stated something to you about that I tried to apologize, and I'm the president of the board, and so on behalf of the board, I issued an apology. That's the most that I can offer. So the policy in question is relatively new because the issue of service dogs is a relatively new issue in the district, and you referenced another family, and it was specifically with that family that we crafted the policy. We can absolutely go back to the policy committee and look at it. I can't really comment on the 3rd. I don't have enough information, and I'm certainly not in a position, nor are any of us, to authorize the payment of an invoice for an attorney. So.
Okay, I would agree with that. I would just say that we should at least look at it and see if the events and if there's any proof. If she was forced to get an attorney in order to hold her position, I think that should be looked at by the board at least.
Just start with your name and address, please.
My name's Alexandra Sanford, and I live at 522 Cotting Road. And I would like to note that I am also the parent of a child with a serious and life-threatening disability, and I appreciate the help that we have received from the Board of Ed in order that Madeline can continue her education, even though she's not well enough to be physically in school right now. So I do thank you for that. However, I did want to speak again as a parent of a child with a disability for whom a service dog may be a necessity in the future. And I would like to just say that one thing that I don't think was given appropriate recognition was I also don't have access to all the emails and all the everything. I haven't seen the IEP, but what I think may have happened was, from what I've heard talking to Frady, who is my friend, Frady did alert the school as well as the district that she did. So it's not that in May when the IEP was drawn up, she mentioned they were planning to get a dog, and then nobody heard anything between May and January 2nd. But once they did get the dog and they started training the dog, they were planning to introduce the dog into the school environment as part of the crucial training of a service dog, because he would be expected to perform his service in the school environment. So my understanding from talking to Frady was that the school did have prior notice of the dog's existence and of the plan that the dog would be coming to school. So I recognize that the board did express to Abigail that she is, entitled to the same education that all children in Westfield are entitled to. Still, it just bothers me to think of a 17-year-old child being taken off of the school bus by the police officers. It is so hard not to feel like that's discriminatory. Again, I do understand it's a complicated situation. I just didn't hear that in the apology. I'm really sorry to hear Abigail, that happened to you, because that's traumatic. So is there a way that there could be an acknowledgement that that particular thing happened, that the child was, forced to leave the bus by the police? That just, can we get a little bit more of a...
I can acknowledge that I wouldn't want no child, I would want no adult to be put in that situation, absolutely. But I think that the circumstances under which that happened, the board I'm not sure exactly what you want from me. I don't think
Okay.
there's a one of us that would dispute that circumstance was awful, and that I'm sorry that she had to go through it. I'm sorry that anybody would have to go through it.
Okay. And then secondly, I do think it would be a great process improvement to really take a closer look at the official policy, to make sure that there is a part of the process in place that when an IEP is drawn up that mentions a service dog, that maybe an employee of the Westfield district contacts the parent and provides the necessary paperwork, so that the parent can know what needs to be done in order to have the dog attend safely and appropriately with the child, so that something like this wouldn't happen in the future. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, absolutely. Can you just say your name and address for us? Thank you.
Hi, I'm Abigail, and I live at 418 Edgar Road with my mother as she came up here beforehand. And I also experienced firsthand, a lot of people in this room did not see what happened and not experience it. But the feeling of waking up in the morning, walking outside and thinking you can go to school, but then told you can't, being stopped and told that you still can't go, and then watching all of the other students on the school bus being taken off in front of you, and basically, if not told, being implied that you're doing something wrong somehow, as I'm just sitting there. And that, of course, makes me feel bad, and that hurts as another person, and as watching these other students watch me be basically demeaned. And the fact that the cop showed up and did absolutely nothing and sided with the bus company that literally told me to get off the bus and didn't want me to go to school because they don't care if I have an education or not. But the fact that the police department was like, okay, that's cool, and sided with them, which is illegal to begin with, is not okay. And then when I did actually end up in school, I don't go to Westfield High School, I go to a private school, and they sat there and tried to argue with me and tried to get me to sign something so Logan couldn't come to school with me anymore. And I assumed that if I showed up to Westfield High School, the same thing would have happened, but I'm assuming I was not there. But the point of the matter is, it was disturbing to watch, because if I was blind, they would probably not would have done that. But because you can't see my disability, they were perfectly okay with brushing it off their shoulder. And that's not okay either. Because it doesn't matter whether or not you can see whatever it is that you think you can. It's not fair to take someone as a student and force them off a bus so they can't go to school in the morning. And then the next day hearing that they can't go either. When I saw my mother fighting over and over and over again to get me the dog, to get the dog to come to me to school, and then just to be blindsided and basically stonewalled and saying, no, you can't. That's not fair. That's not fair to me and anyone else in my position. It's just not fair, and it's not okay, and I deserve an apology. She deserves an apology. Honestly, everyone on that bus deserves an apology. I deserve an apology for different reasons, but it is not okay what happened, and you cannot ignore it, and you need to address it, because history repeats itself. And I bet you don't address it now, who knows? A week from now, the same thing can happen. A year from now, because you're not dealing with the issue now. And I just don't think it's fair. That's all.
Is it Abigail? Is that how I say your name? So I'm very sorry you were put in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very sorry.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else? Seeing no one else come to the podium, I'd ask the board to approve the following resolution, that the Board of Ed move into private session for the purpose of discussing matters rendered confidential by state and federal law, personnel, and harassment, intimidation, and bullying incidents, and be it further resolved that any discussion held by the board which need not remain confidential and the results of the discussion will be made public as soon as practicable. Can I have a second? Amy, thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, we are in private.